Hello fellow traders. Today is the first of many videos where I'm going to go into a comprehensive approach to how to find profits in the markets by me, a pajama trader. Before we get started, I got to emphasize that I'm not a licensed professional and any information provided is for the general education and entertainment purposes. And the content that I share is not to be taken as stock advice or financial advice. Any new trader should always seek advice from qualified professionals and financial advisors. Always do thorough research before making any investment decisions. And remember, trading involves a lot of risk, and past performance is not indicative of future results. Happy learning. Trade responsibly. How did I get here? I started off, got a degree in business, worked in a manufacturing for a little while, worked in sales, worked in real estate, residential and commercial. And at the time, the markets were kind of unstable, didn't like the job transitions, so I decided to take my money and hit the markets. I started off in penny stocks because people were making a lot of money, and it seemed like a quick way to be able to get to a million quick. So without letting any kind of knowledge, I jumped in. After losing about $17,000 on a trade, I decided it was probably time for me to step back and try to figure this thing out. Spent about 30,000 hours in the researching and trying to figure out where my niche is, and found it. So now my goal is to share the information that I've learned along the way with fellow traders like myself to help to change the learning curve. Basically, sharing the system is a good way to try to level the odds and get into more consistent trades, and also finding the right trades and being able to make consistent profits. I hope to share the knowledge on the metrics of what I look for in SEC filings, as well as earnings, to be able to match that up with the movement on the stock charts and be able to utilize the profits based on those findings. I chose this approach because I realized that mid-cap stocks trade like penny stocks. They're very, very volatile, and depending on which stocks that you get in. Low-cap stock can be manipulated, and what I mean by that is if you got a stock that trades at a penny and the market cap is under 100 million, there's very good odds that you don't need a lot of people to come in and run the thing up and dump it. And I didn't really like getting caught in trades like that. I found that mid-cap stocks that trade 2 million or more tend to move $5 to $50 in a week, sometimes in a day. Basically, I follow the float. Following the float allows me to be able to see how much interest is going in and out of a security, and allow me to be able to step in and take advantage of the beat of the moves when the trades happen. Understanding company filings also helps me to be able to stay ahead of the trade. Basically, if a company gets in and they decide that they want to do a major stock sale, paying attention to the filings, especially after hours, allowed me to be able to stay ahead of that and be able to jump in and get out of a trade or find a trade based on that information. Here's a deeper example into the thesis. If you can see with the number one volume, or the number one bubble where you have the volume at, and then you look at the number four bubble where it shows where the stock is at that 400% level. At the 100% level, where you see the number six bubble, that's the volume, that's the normal volume. And then when you look at where the stock is in relation to that, it's around the $3 mark. So that tells me at 100%, it only trades $3. Anything beyond that is overextended, but at the most part, you can probably get up to about the $9 point based on the volume at the 100 at its max level that you can see at the number two bubble, indicating where the volume is. And this is basically how I'm able to jump in and out by looking for these particular signs in the stock movements. SEC filings, and what are they? You have the 10K, 10Q, 8K, proxy statement, Forms 3, 4, and 5, Schedule 13D, and also the 144. All of these forms are very important, but the forms that I tend to pay most attention to is the 10K, the earnings, the 10Q, and Form 8K, and Forms 3, 4, and 5, and also Form 144. But the most important ones are usually the 10K and the 8K, because the 10Ks, 10Qs are the earnings, and you can find out how well the company's doing financially. Whereas the 8K, any company events, any stock sell-offs are typically found in that. All of these other forms are very important, and I suggest that you can check out Investopedia to get a more deeper look into what these filings are. But to me, the most important ones are the earnings reports, the 10K, 10Q, and obviously the 8K. And proxy statements are also important because it talks about the forward statements with the company. And those are things that you should also pay attention to when you're looking at these filings. And basically matching this up will help you be able to know if you're in a valuable security or not. So what do I look for in the earnings? I look at the EPS and the revenue. Typically, if the revenue is a make, that'll send the stock moving, $10, $20, depending on the news. Typically with the EPS, if the earnings per share, if that gets missed, in some cases that can cause an adverse stock movement. If you hit both of those, that kind of sends the stock, in some cases, parabolic. So earnings in relation to the stock chart is definitely key. Paying attention to the earnings per share and the revenue, and being able to understand, well, the company made revenue, so it's probably going to be a long play, or they missed revenue, it could be a short play. But understanding these earnings in relation to that stock or security that you're into also helps you to stay ahead and can create more consistent trades. Other financials that I look for in a company: cash on hand, free cash flow, debt, and revenue that I mentioned earlier. Cash on hand, to me, if the company closes down today, how much money will it take to keep the company going? Free cash flow is kind of the same thing. The way I look at that is, if they had no access to any credit whatsoever, do they have enough free cash flow in their business to keep the doors open and continue to keep building product or making sales? And obviously, debt is most important, because if they have more debt than revenue, the company's not going to be around very long. Revenue is obviously the one thing that everybody wants to see. Is the company profitable? Those are key metrics that I tend to look for also. Here's a quick look of how things have gone into different stocks. I've picked over 1,500 or more to date with over a 50% accuracy. I generate watch lists every day based on a lot of the plays that I find. And obviously the prices change depending on the entry and exits of the day that you decide to trade it. I also compare my portfolio against other public ones. And like I had mentioned before, those typically rank within the top 3 or top 5 every month. Other things that I'll consider when making plays: I'll look at how the company performed over the past years, typically 3 to 5 years. I also look at the volume, pre-market, post-market, and try to get an idea of how it's going to trade throughout the day. Obviously, I can't figure it out to a certainty, but understanding the volume and the average volume helps me to get a better idea of where the stock is going or how it's going to move that day. Other considerations and tools I'll use is Yahoo Finance. It also helps me to get a better look at the stock financials. I use Excel spreadsheets to track my trades. I also use Excel spreadsheets to I have a list of value companies that I look at and helps me to be able to understand the metrics of the company and even newer companies and finding the diamond in the rough where, because a lot of times the market, if there's a great company out there and the market doesn't like it, it may not trade well. But understanding the value in these companies and keeping them on watch will help you stay ahead of the news. Other parts that I'll consider as far as research is just always reading and staying on top of the news. So what have I learned on this journey? I learned how to understand the stock charts better to be able to create more consistent trades. And I also learned how to understand the news and the filings to make me a better trader and not get into bad trades and bad stocks. Basically, this has come together and helped me to be able to create consistent profits and to be able to take care of the life things that people like to do. Staying in tune with the markets is also key. Understanding the news, understanding what to do with that news, and also understanding how to find profitable companies. These are things that's going to keep you sustainable as a trader going down the line. Resources. Gorilla Terminal is what I use for my resource. Basically, for any research, it's a one-stop shop. If you want to find out news, financials, even Twitter feeds, it's a great tool to use. Investopedia is also great for research. If you want to find out anything any market jargon you're not sure of, Investopedia is a great resource to go to. Twitter, also a nice resource to use to stay ahead of the news, but it's only as good as the people you follow. If you're following, great financial minds, you're probably going to do well. But if you're following a bunch of media pundits, it's probably not going to get you paid. Trading platforms I'll use, TD Ameritrade is the go-to, but I also use Webull and Robinhood also, except it's not great for back testing. And AI Invest is also a new platform that I've been dabbling around with. It's also great for market research, staying on top of the filings. And there's a few others out there, but I would suggest that, you research them and paper trade with them before, making a huge commitment with them. Things going forward. Like I mentioned in the beginning of this video, that this is going to be the first of many. This trading journey was pretty educational, and I look to share that with a lot of new traders and hoping to shorten their learning curve in their trading journey. If you found any of this information useful and you'd like to get more information like this, like, share, subscribe. And also thank you for giving us a view. It really helps. And please, again, share so that we can get a lot of this good information out to folks. Last but not least, master your craft. Always continue to trade. Always try to research. Always stay on top of the news. Always continue to try to become a better trader.